Another glorious day here in Harbin's ice and snow world, and I could not be happier to introduce my distinguished guest today. Sitting next to me is none other than Mr. Timothy Fok, the president of the Sports Committee of Hong Kong, China, the president of the Olympic Committee of Hong Kong, China, also the vice president of the Olympic Council of Asia. Mr. Timothy Fok, thank you so much for joining me.
Well, thank you, Greg, for having me.
Well, let's get right into it. And first of all, of course, here we are at the 9th Asian Winter Games. I know you've seen some of the events, you've watched your delegation perform, and your guys have been doing great, especially on the ice. I know in hockey they've achieved some impressive results. Also in speed skating, short track speed skating, both the men and the women. What have you seen so far, and what are your impressions of the organization's preparations of the games?
Well, I tried to cover most of the games, but I must compliment because you were only giving the games only 18 months ago. And all the facilities really, I think, set a new standard. Yet at the same time, Harbin been one of the few places in China has the kind of winter condition. And anyhow, having looked at behind us, and I think people really, for the first time, actually most of us actually come from more tropical or desert countries. But many of them actually came for the first time. And I must say, through you, we thank the organizing committee. The athletes are extremely happy, and the condition is very well. On top of that, I think Harbin is frankly a very beautiful city with great history. And do you mind even take this chance of thanking the volunteers? Because I heard there's something like 20,000 volunteers. Actually, they make us they're extremely kind and actually reflect the great hospitality of the people. Yeah.
That is a fantastic point. You know, it's a lot of these little details that make the way.
Exactly.
The language services from not just the volunteers, but even security guards. Everyone has learned at least a bit of English and courtesy. I've been treated very well, and I expect you even better. Now, let's talk a bit about the Hong Kong China delegation. 72 athletes, the largest ever you've sent to an Asian Winter Games. Can you talk about just the rapid development of Asian winter sports, particularly in a warmer region like Hong Kong, China?
Yeah, when we used to mention a winter game, being a tropical place, we used to send a kind of token team, and there was very few expectation. But this time, I think for the first time, especially Harbin, in our own country, so we sent a record delegation of over 75 members. And we follow them, and actually I'm a little proud. I think they did extremely well, and I think especially most of them are young men, and I think that we're extremely encouraged. Maybe I also will take this opportunity thanking the China Sports Authority, because we do not have the condition. A lot of the athletes are trained, and actually, I will be spending some time with the Sports Authority. Hopefully, they can give Hong Kong a lot more help. And I think definitely we'd like to develop further the sports, winter sports in our part of the world.
It's so important, right? We talk about the explosion, tremendous growth of Asian winter sports in the last decade. The last two Winter Olympics, of course, were held Beijing 2022, Pyeongchang 2018. These Harbin Asian Winter Games, the largest ever, 34 National Olympic Committees represented here. Also, we've got countries like Cambodia making their debut. Exactly. Nice like that. We talked earlier about Indians, Filipinos out on the ice skating is so great to see. Also, the next Asian Winter Games 2029 is taking place in Saudi Arabia, the first time ever in West Asia. Can you talk a bit about the growth of Asian sports, some of the factors that contribute to this?
Yeah, the problem with the Winter Games is Asia, although it's the largest continent, but it has kind of restraint because only few places have that condition. But having seen what Beijing did, and I think that what Harbin did, and especially you mentioned that most of the Cambodia is participating. And again, Saudi Arabia will be hosting the next game. I think really we set the tempo for future games. And I think that we're really excited about developing Asian Games, and I hope Harbin, being one of the strongest venue, can help Asia get developed, including like us from Hong Kong.
Now, how about just from a sporting side of things? How important is it for games like these Asian Winter Games? It provides a platform for athletes who've maybe just taken up the sport a little while ago to be on the ice or on the snow with potentially Olympic or world champions. How important is it in their development?
No, unfortunately, everybody's talking about at that highest level, on the professional level. Of course, everybody like to, that is ultimate. But frankly, I think very important is sports for all. I think that now, look at this condition. It's actually people with different ages, family can bonding. And I think this is absolutely a wonderful sport. And now we're looking at even without the natural condition. And I think that's a big program that helped to specialize in Saudi Arabia. As you know, no more that and a lot of tropical countries, including people like Hong Kong, we like to talk to the authority how we can actually build facility and actually how to develop the game. Yeah.
In the lead up to the 2022 Beijing Winter Olympics, we talk about sport for all. Well, Chinese President Xi Jinping set the bar very high when he pledged to get 300 million Chinese engaged in winter sports. That number has long since been met and surpassed. Can you talk about perhaps the inspiration that gives to the warmer parts of Asia and other people to get into winter sports for the first time?
Well, I was very touched, as you know, that we have the Beijing Olympic Games. Everybody remember, and yet when Beijing got the Winter Olympic Game, and that's what the authority mentioned, 300 million people should enjoy those games, and that's true. Now, not only China's development all over with wonderful facilities, even places like Hong Kong were inspired to do well. And like you mentioned, a lot of Asia, the tropical countries, now they're sending teams and actually getting results. And lastly, you mentioned that the Saudi Arabia in the far part is known for other desert sport, but now they have the aspiration and the imagination to do that. And I think I really were looking forward to the development of sports in Asia.
I am too. The chance to perhaps go skiing in Saudi Arabia in the future.
Exactly.
There's always been this idea of sand skiing, but to develop this winter resort that they aim to do in Trojana in the Neil Mountains sounds just fantastic, and talk about ambitious.
Yeah, because I think that the Harbin really have to set the template, they set the standard. And I hope that, again, I will emphasize how wonderful the facility and all the organization. And I hope that knowledge can be spread, and actually Asia will benefit by doing that.
Now, you come from a family that embraces sport on every level. Your father, Mr. Henry Fok, was, of course, a very notable athlete. We talked about this on the way in. A big football player, picked up tennis later. You mentioned a champion. I'll let you say that a little bit more. But can you talk about also just the benefit of sport, not just to a lifestyle, but also the power to bring people together? And we see it on the individual level out here and the fun people can have, but also the top competitors. These guys are going around, they end up making wonderful relationships through competition.
Well, I think that there's something is lost because now football become such an important thing now. Also commercially, it's an industry. But yet at the same time, with the Olympic Committee, still embrace the kind of value. I think all the things that go with it. And I think that a great country or continent, not only on the medal or the standard, is sports for all. So every young man, especially young people, can participate. And hopefully that, and also it's a bit of a cliche, but sports is about all the positive things, friendship, fairness. And I like to think that when people practice sport, this will carry through the philosophy for life.
Well, it transcends language and culture, right? Out on the field, we're all
Exactly.
doing the same thing. You never have to exchange another word with somebody. It could be a blink or a nod, and hopefully they're behind you if it's a race. How important is it to just unite people?
No, that's the beauty of sport. In the field of play, there's competition. And yet, when you're off the field, a lot of time, even for me, they be friends for life. And I think a lot of them may from a different country, different cultures. But yet I think sport is really one of the most inclusive. And I hope that, in this world, things are complicated. But every time when they're together, after all, we're the Olympic family.
Now, one of the teams that has done, I think, really well is the Hong Kong China men's ice hockey team. I actually spoke to the coach, who's a fellow Canadian, Kerry Durant, earlier today, and the youngest player on the team, Wong San Lam. He had 4 goals and assists in these games. He did fantastic. Hong Kong China's run came up in the quarterfinals against perhaps the top team in the tournament, Kazakhstan. An incredible opportunity for them to play some of the best in the world. I mean, some of those guys are being drafted into the NHL, the top tier of professional hockey. Now, I believe they finished 8th overall after this, but they'll be expected to make further breakthroughs. What message do you have for some of those guys on the team?
Well, I shouldn't say it, but being the president, I'm very proud because I actually watched them. They actually only, I think, lost it the last minute. But yet, that's not important. I think that's the start of giving attention. And majority, when you see the age, they're really extremely young men. And I see not only the result and the manner they did, and I think this set example for sort of not only practicing sport for the young people in Hong Kong. It sets an extremely positive message, especially all the government authorities there. And I hope they will give a lot more resources for sport in Hong Kong.
Well, they definitely talked about that. Coach Durant talked about that too, how there's a few indoor rinks, but hoping to build more, how progress isn't going to come overnight. Sports infrastructure, winter sports in particular, obviously, it's expensive. Ice time, all of this, it is costly. Not to mention that it's the equipment for kids. Me growing up playing hockey in Canada, parents having to buy skates each year for a growing boy or girl is really difficult. How can you navigate those,
Well, that's a big challenge because it's like other sport, ping pong, you buy a racket. It is an expensive sport, and you need to travel. And that's why, in fact, I will spend a few more days here, speak a lot with the local authority, and also the government will support it. And I hope that after all, Hong Kong's most southern city, Harbin is the most northern city. I think we have a lot of synergy together, don't you think? And they are very willing to get a lot of help. And I hopefully this will be the beginning of a lot of exchange between us. And hopefully one game is over, another game begins. We may not be, but next year is already the Winter Olympic, and there may more to come. And I hope that with the result this year, there will be a lot of support, especially a lot of parents behind them now too. So I hope that we can build on this. And, well, one day you may see Hong Kong name on the board.
Well, I mean, that's it, and that's how you make things better, right? Steel sharpens steel. So if more and more people are playing the sport, more and more talent rises to the top athletes who may have turned to football or tennis before and now picking up skis or speed skates and trying something out. So directing their winter sports, their talent elsewhere. Now, I want to close by talking about a few of the festivals. Certainly today, it is Lantern Festival, so I'd like to wish you Happy Lantern Festival. Yuan Xiao Jie Kuai Le, as I believe is said around here. Perhaps we can have some Tong Yuan together later. Also, as I understand, February 14th, the world knows it as Valentine's Day, but perhaps I think they should also understand that it's your birthday. And the closing ceremony of these games. Do you have any special wishes, any special plans for that day?
Well, all I can say, I love you. And Harbin.
Fantastic. Mr. Timothy Fok, I think there is no better way to end it. Thank you so much for joining us here. It's been great to have you. I wish Hong Kong, China, and the development of sports in general all the best. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Thank you.